Hello, Narath here with another Daily Flip. Today we're going to be talking about angles. So, as a flipper who makes videos and posts online, you find yourself doing a lot of editing and a lot of video making. So it's just a part of being a flipper online. A lot of times you don't have a cameraman or a camera crew. You're there by yourself. You set up your camera. Sometimes you can have it's nice to have a couple of guys on a film set, just so that you can make sure you're in frame, make sure you're in focus. But basically, a lot of times you end up being by yourself. So you end up using the same angles and all that stuff. Basically, the more angles you use in one edit, the more entertaining or appealing to the viewer. Basically, it's all about just keeping the viewer entertained by switching it up, right? A lot of times you can do stuff with editing, but if you're like me who hate editing, it's all about the angles and using different angles. Sometimes it's hard to stay in frame. Sometimes it's not about being in frame. Sometimes being out of frame is so that you can. Sometimes when you make close-up shots, a lot of times the knife will go out of frame, and it's not a big deal if that's what kind of shot you're looking for. So let's just start with this angle here. This is one of the most popular angles because it gets a very, very good range around. It's called the third-person view. So basically, you're looking at me straight forward, and then it gives. This one here is good for vertical, right? So when you're doing scissoring stuff. Not so well for horizontal stuff, right? Sometimes with horizontal or reverse, in this angle you can't really see what's going on because it's all kind of jumbled up into. So different angles allows you to see different tricks differently. So stuff like around the worlds in this angle looks nice, right? Like big aerials. You would want to back up a little bit if you're doing some big aerials. Right, and if you want, you can get it a little bit closer to get some close shots, right? So the close-up shots are cool, but if you're making a full routine, chances are you're not gonna get it all. So in video editing, you can make close-up shots to focus on one part of the trick and then back up again to complete the combo, right? So basically, it's all about. Most of the times people want to see all of the tricks. So basically you're trying to stay in frame as much as possible, making sure if you're doing an aerial, right, and if it goes out of frame and you can't see how far it goes or how many rotations it does, people find that annoying. You really want to stay in frame. The other popular angle nowadays is the POV, so the GoPro on the head mount, right, so pointing downwards. So basically it gives you the illusion that you're looking through their eyes and seeing what they're doing from their eyes. So basically, a lot of times GoPros use a wide angle lens. A wide angle lens, also called a fisheye, allows you to get a much broader view. So when you put it on a POV where the camera is pretty close to the hand, if you had it set on the narrow setting, right? So basically the normal on the GoPro, like not fisheye, just normal video. You would barely see anything, right? So by putting the wide angle, you can see a lot more around you when you put the GoPro here. Little tip: if you have a GoPro like mine, I'm not sure how the new ones are, but I can set it to narrow, medium, or wide. I found that wide POV is too wide. That medium, if you check it, if you use it on medium, it doesn't distort the image too much, and you can still get all your shots in frame. So that's my tip for POV. Another one that you could use that's popular is bird's eye view. So bird's eye view is it's coming from. I've used it like, if you know what T-bar ceiling is, right? I used to do it at work and put my phone in the T-bar pointing down. So it's very much overhead view. It's very good for if you want to have some cool aerial shots where the knife comes really close to the camera and then you can catch it, or some big para aerials or some hacks, anything horizontal. When you're in POV, or a bird's eye view, the horizontal looks much better than vertical, right? So you can still do some vertical combos, but that vertical axis is not being seen as well as the horizontal axis, right? Because when you're pointing down, you're very much kind of like this angle here is good for vertical, POV, and bird's eye and worm's eye is good for this angle, right? So worm's eye view is where the camera is kind of like on the ground, pointing up, looking at you. The problem with worm eye is the lighting. So a lot of times you're using spotlighting from the top or the sunlight. So what happens is when you point the camera up, you're pointing at the light, and there's no light reflecting off of you, so you can't see anything. A lot of times it's just blackness, and if there's anything up in the sky or like in your room, like a ceiling fan, if a ceiling fan is going and you have the angle, it's just the worst. You can't concentrate on the flipper. All you're looking at is the fan, and it's just a terrible time. Worm's eye view doesn't have the best reputation in the flipping community because a lot of times people don't know how to get the lighting, right? So you can't see anything. A lot of times it's not a good angle to look at you too. Like if you're taking a picture from you like that, you're probably gonna look really ugly. So it's just not the best view. Sometimes if you get it wrong, you get a crotch shot too. So you see the crotch, and it's just not unappealing. One I like is, I call it the cat's eye view. So worm's eye view is very much flat on the ground, looking up. It's kind of like if you put your phone down on the ground and you just flip in on top of it, right? Cat's eye view is where the camera is sitting a bit higher off the ground. So about the height of a dog or cat, like, will be looking, and it's pointing up. So it's not very much, it's not, the camera's not pointing up completely. It's kind of pointing, it's low and it's kind of pointing up, right? Like on a diagonal. That one there's cool. I've used that one before with a wide angle lens, and you can get really close to the and give some really cool looking aspect shots. I call it the cat's eye view. I don't think that's an actual term. That's just what I call it. And then there's, basically, it's important not to use the same angle all the time. Basically, you get called out for it. 50. I mean, I'm after calling him out a couple times, but his theory is you give people what they want, right? So when I started doing POV, I liked it and I used it a lot, and a lot of people liked it too. It is a clean angle. You can see all the horizontal stuff. If horizontal is your jam, then you're gonna end up using that angle a bit more because it does show the horizontal aspect of it very nicely. There's another view I like is, I don't think there's a name. I haven't named it yet. Maybe we can call it the Albert the Giant angle. So basically, I have a tripod that can go pretty high, right? So a high angle pointing down, right? So kind of like this one here. If you put the camera really high and looking down, so you kind of see. It's kind of like you're looking down on the flipper. So basically, you can get nice aerial shots, and horizontal looks good. You can get some vertical stuff looks good too. It's all about finding little angles that make the difference, right? So switching it up, having angles coming from this side looking at the knife. Basically, if you're wanting to expand your video, experiment with angles, right? So there's not much else I can talk to you about other than try not to use the same angle every single video you make, right? It's nice to have diversity. What else can I say? Oh, another thing now that's gonna start getting popular is the glide cam. So a glide cam is basically a camera on a mount that has some type of stabilizer, right, like a gimbal, or just like a mount that you can mount to your body and it kind of moves around with your body. now you get motorized gimbals, right, that use a motor to keep the camera like stable. So those are really cool. The panning shots, right? So like you're flipping someone, a dynamic shot. So a lot of times with flippers, it's a static video type, right? So it's not like it's not motion. There's no motion in it. A lot of I've been watching a lot of Kendama videos lately, and the skateboarding is the same. Rarely do you see stable, like static shots. They're all dynamic, right? So all made by a cameraman, all following in Kendama. Like the camera will just follow the ball, and you know they'll go up and down or they'll pan. Skateboarding, people will just follow someone else on the skateboard and like you know have the camera angled, and then you follow. If you have a crew of guys that like to flip, it's the best because you can get cameramans, you can make sure everyone's in focus, and it's just a good time, right? Basically, you'll never see an actor do the acting and the video making and then the editing, right? So that's why flippers, sometimes like me, we're lazy. I don't like editing. It takes me a long time. I get frustrated. I don't have a good computer for it, so it takes forever. So I end up just like slapping a song on it, maybe slapping a slow-mo on it, and then fucking post, right? Because I don't give a fuck. But I really should try harder. That's why I'm gonna team up with people to edit my videos soon. So I'm gonna get content out through BRS. It's gonna be really fun. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow. Peace.